Hey, Anna here, and today we're talking about another original character of mine, a personal favorite based off of a very dear human to me. And you get to have a background of a cat. Uh, so today we're talking about Thierry, and that's Senior Cat. Our new cat is meowing as my background if you can hear him. So Thierry was based off of a very close person to me during the time when I created him. And I would call him a godly being. Originally, Thierry was a deity. Well, one of the multitude of gods of the oceans. And then something happened, something that involved a lot of feelings, a lot of personal story, a lot of, let's just say, Thierry became a god gone wild. And as he changed as an entity, he became darkness, complete darkness. So in his entirety, he would just be nothingness, to be fair. And one of the first comics I ever drafted was the story of Thierry and Lou actually meeting. How she runs away from her tribe, from her kingdom, and ends up in the cave where Thierry decided to dwell. Because Thierry represents an entity with, let's say, not no feelings, no, but more like he presents an entity that suppressed his own feelings to save himself, to, let's say, gather himself in said darkness and protect his own mind, his own heart, his own soul. He's a very complicated creature, and I can't say that a lot of people will understand his backstory, but the whole theme, the whole line of Thierry is about finding Lou, is about trusting someone again, is about restoring himself. Because by the end of the day, Thierry was broken. And Lou was, well, she came into his life to repair him, in a sense. And their whole storyline is about that repairing, is about that restoration, is about that revival of Thierry, of him as a creature, of him as someone with feelings, with the ability to trust, to cherish, to protect, with the wish to protect. He becomes Lou's protector, and that's where the characteristics I took from the said person to base off of Thierry. That's where the characteristics come on, with the protection, with the trust, with the wisdom, in a sense, because even though if you watched the episode with Lou, you know that Lou is quite old. In our terms, she's quite old. Well, Thierry is, inevitably older because he existed since the beginning of times. So we don't really know how old is he as a being. And he has a lot more control over his feelings. He has a lot more. The way he views life is a lot more materialistic and pragmatic in a way, but at the same time, it's much more logical, and it makes much more sense to the world in general, rather than the impulsive decisions Lou tends to make. So she would always depend on Thierry whenever she would need protection or whenever she would need advice, even when it had to do with government decisions down at the Lionfish Kingdom. Usually, Lou is near Thierry at all times, but Thierry does have like his own time, and in the future, I would love to think about what he does when he's not with Lou, and what he did before, and what was he before. Because in my mind, he was something great, and he was something very, very warm and cozy. Like, he was one of those gods that people would share their food and wines with, and make celebrations to, because he was one of the good ones. But once again, I can't be sure, because I never dwelled down that rabbit hole. Because historically, it was much more important what Lou and Thierry have now. I am very sorry, but the cat wants attention. However, to be fair, and it's very important to the story, Thierry is based off a person who has never, who I never doubted. He was based off a person that has my full trust and has never went against it, has never done anything for me not to trust said person. And that's the core of Thierry. Thierry is the most stable thing in Lou's existence, the most trustworthy thing in Lou's existence, and the most real thing in Lou's existence. Because we need to keep in mind that Lou is in between two worlds. Her whole life, she knew one thing about the world above water, and then when she actually goes there, it's a complete other story. And she's very confused as a character at that point of being, when she starts learning what the above water world is. For Thierry, he sees everything, hears everything. He's still the godly being that he was. He's just the darkness. He's the shadows. He's pure blackness in itself. And that allows him access to the whole world around him at the same time, at all times. So he's much more aware of what's going on than Lou is. And he's sort of a Wikipedia for Lou. He's capable of answering her questions, but in a very logical and cold, thought-through way. Not in a way that my personal character or Lexi would answer her questions, or even Maury, which we will meet further on. So, meanwhile, while Lou is making friends, Thierry has his own reactions, and when Lou starts making friends, that's where we will see Thierry growing more aware of his feelings that started healing, that started reappearing, and that will be very new for him. And there will be some dark moments in either illustrations, stories, or maybe I will do a few comics on that to explain his state of mind. Because Thierry, for me, is a great example. Like, if you see him visually, he's not very appealing as a character, but that was the whole point, because I wanted Lou to have a sort of protector who is not bound by visual. Like, she is bound to him because she truly trusts and cares for him. She truly believes that Thierry is like her guardian angel. She would most likely give her life for him. And that is in no sense connected to him being visually appealing. Remember, the day they met, was the day he took on the form of the sad rabbit head on whatnot. Prior to that, he was just darkness. He was just a blob of darkness. And that was about it. And even now, during very angry moments, very annoyed, he becomes a dark creature, which I'll need to make an illustration of that. But that's another story. So that's a little bit about Thierry. He's one of my most cherished and most important characters, I would say, and most complicated because he sort of evolves not with me. He evolves separately because each time I think about him, he's a character that is much older than all my characters. So I have to take that into account, and that makes him much more rational, much more cold in a sense, much more. Everything is a transaction by the end of the day. That's what Thierry is. That's how his mind works, and it's puzzling to me how sometimes it's remarkable. I come back to Thierry and he evolved without me even noticing. Because it's another situation, it's another day, but he still manages to grow, even though, even taking into consideration all the age, all his age and all his experience and all his knowledge, he still manages to evolve with Lou and with every one of my characters, and it amazes me. It truly amazes me. So yeah, that was a little bit of insight on Thierry. He did change visually a little bit, in my opinion, and there will be some more illustrations of him appearing on this channel. So please give him a warm welcome. He, well, protects Lou from all things bad. So yeah, I hope you like meeting my little OCs, and I'll give you a little bit more of a background on them in the future. Well, Anna's out, and Thierry's out as well. Bye-bye.